Well, welcome to the West Ham Voice. Thank you for joining me. A weekend special. I don't normally do shows at the weekend, but I've got a little bit of time, not a lot, to sort of just bring you a roundup of all the transfer gossip that's been looming around over the past week. Quite a lot of it is what you've already heard, but there are one or two other snippets as well. There's so many other stories I can talk to you about, but I'm going to do that on the West Ham Weekly on Monday night. For those of you who watch that show, join me on Monday night for a full update on all things related to West Ham. I'll talk about the pre-season in Scotland. There's a little story about season ticket waiting lists. There's a story about betting companies and Premier League football as well. So join me for that, and of course all the other updates on player news and transfer gossip, etc., etc. But this short show is just going to be a bit of a brief update, really, on the West Ham transfer situation. Players leaving or supposedly leaving, and players supposedly coming to West Ham United as well. Look, if you're new to the channel, do at the bottom there you can see West Ham Voice on YouTube. Be wonderful for you to hit the like button, even hit the subscribe button if you like what you hear and what you see, and hit the bell notification to alert you as to when I'm next on. So would be wonderful for you to join me on this West Ham Voice journey. So why don't we start first of all with stories inside the club, shall we? As in the players at the club. Still an awful lot of speculation about what's going to happen with Thomas Soucek and his future at West Ham. And there's the latest story, a little bit of a twist on what we've kind of heard so far, is that West Ham United are willing to negotiate a new deal with the player. They're willing to get round the table and sort of start talking about negotiations and see if they can come to some agreement between the player and the agent and the club. But at the same time, they also are quite happy to start receiving offers for the player as well. So I don't know. Look, I don't make up these stories. I just want to reiterate, as I always do, I don't come up with these stories. This is what I read. I do an awful lot of reading, poor me, on West Ham United in order to provide these shows. So this is the next thing that we hear about Soucek. Apparently, they're willing to listen to offers, but at the same time, they're willing to negotiate. I guess whichever one comes first, really. And Everton are apparently the latest club because they've just sold Richarlison to Spurs, and Spurs are doing some business in this window, aren't they? They just sold Richarlison to Spurs for £60 million, and so they're now looking at possible replacements. Not necessarily that Soucek is a like for like, but they're looking at rebuilding their squad. So that's the news on Soucek. We want to negotiate a new contract with him, but we're quite happy to look at selling him if the right price comes along. Then, of course, as we all kind of knew, Alex Kral, his loan spell with West Ham United has come to an end. It is one of the weirdest transfer stories in West Ham's history. We knew we needed a midfielder to sort of look at competing with Declan Rice and Thomas Soucek, and even providing some respite for either of those players. We knew Connor Coventry had been sent out on loan. We knew Mark Noble was in his final year of his contract. So Alex Kral coming in kind of excited people in a way. We thought, well, he's an up and coming young player, Czech Republic international. What's not to like? But as we know, now it looks like Moyes didn't really favour the transfer. It was a bit of a dud in last summer's transfer window, and he's sent out a tweet or whatever he uses saying that he was happy to wear the shirt with pride, etc. Didn't see you too much in it, Alex, but that wasn't your fault. So that's he's left. We kind of knew it. What happens to him now? I mean, specifically, he sort of goes back to Spartak Prague. But with all the issues going on with Russia and the war at the moment, it's possible that he may end up. There's talk about one or two teams in Germany being interested in the player. Pre-season, as I said, has started. There's a number of players that are involved there. You see Masuaku. There's an awful lot of talk about him going, but that's sort of quieting down over the past few weeks, and so we don't believe that at the moment there's any deal going on. But as I mentioned in last week's West Ham Weekly show, there are three scenarios at the moment. Either we pay Masuaku's final years of his contract off, but he's got 2 years plus an additional 2 years. There's also talk about selling him if the right price comes along, or there's talk about he's going to fight for his place in the team. Who knows? Next up, Issa Diop. Now, apparently, Issa Diop is close to joining Lyon. If you believe all the rumours that are out there, he's out training in Scotland with the rest of the senior team and some of the under-23s as well. So you would have thought if he's that close to signing a contract with Lyon or any team for that matter, would he actually be out training with the rest of the squad? I don't know. I thought they'd wrap him up in cotton wool so that nothing would happen to him, getting injuries during pre-season, etc. But he's there with the senior squad, and I'm not so sure if anything really is going to happen. But there's a long way to go in the transfer window. Would I like to see him go? Honestly, no. I think Issa Diop gets a bad deal, a bad press. I think he's had some bad games, but then you tell me, you can probably name the number of players on one hand that had a really good season last season. Diop, I think, is still a work in progress, and I know that sounds odd. He's still got 1 year left on his contract. Uh, he could be the future. Ogbonna and Dawson in the last year of their contracts, wrong side of the age of 30, etc. Diop could still have a role to play in the future of West Ham. Of course, we've all heard Sonny Perkins has now left West Ham United, not on mutual terms, I hasten to add. West Ham United's put out a very, very strong statement on the website. Quite disgusted, really, that Perkins has left. And they've more or less alluded to the fact that Perkins has been tapped up. Now, there's a number of teams apparently interested in him. Apparently, Spurs are interested, and so are Leeds. Who knows? It's quite possible that Perkins has been given very bad advice from his agent. Well, not possible. It's almost definite. West Ham United more or less pointed the finger in the statement that they put out that it was his agent that has done the dirty on West Ham. Look, Perkins, let's put this in perspective. Perkins was a prospect, but no one was to say that he was going to make it into the first team. Yes, he got a taste of first team football. Yes, it was great that he was elevated, but I still maintain if we had players like Armstrong Oko Flex that would have been eligible for European football, the Europa League last season, I would have thought that Oko Flex might have got the nod over Perkins. But then, what do I know? I could be completely wrong. Look, work in progress, decent prospect, but he was nowhere near a Premier League footballer. He's just turned 18 years of old, 18 years of age. He had a long, long way to go to really become a prime prospect. And apparently, he was asking, or his agent was asking for big money, big salary. He was only on a few £100 a week or whatever it is, not a lot of money. And fair enough. When you're a player, you've got a short lifespan as a footballer and you want to make the most of it. But Perkins was trying to, well, or his agent was thinking he had another Ronaldo on his hands. And it's a shame. Now, interestingly, Perkins' his agency is 1010. And 1010 also manage. Uh, they also manage Mark Noble, and they also manage Mark Warburton, our new first team coach. So I don't know. I mean, you would have thought that they would have had some kind of decent agreement or understanding between agency and club, but seems not. When I looked at 1010 on their books are not filled with big stars. Ironically, Perkins is listed as the second most valuable player for 1010's agency, and they wanted to get their money. They wanted to make a few quid out of the player. I think they badly advised him, and who knows what happens. Their highest valued player is Matt Clark, centre back Matt Clark of Brighton, valued at about £3 million. Then Perkins comes next at around about 1.2 million. Look, I don't know who's going to because as I do this show on a Saturday morning, I don't know whether he's been signed by anybody else, but I'm sure maybe by the West Ham Weekly that I do on Monday night, we might hear a little bit more. Well, one out, one in. Patrick Kelly, he's just signed a 3-year deal with West Ham. Another young prospect from the Northern Ireland Premier League, this time from Club Coleraine. He follows Michael Forbes and Callum Marshall in switching to East London over the past year or so. Look, he's a decent playmaker. He's highly regarded. He's very highly valued. He even said himself that he's been given an opportunity now to show West Ham it's a great club to sort of develop as a youngster. He's signed a 3-year deal. And we look forward to seeing what he can do. Clearly, he's going to be joining the academy squad initially to see what he can offer. And we really hope that Patrick Kelly can be one of the players, one of the next players to break through. Why not? And we welcome him, and we're glad that he himself has talked about having the ability. West Ham United giving youngsters the ability to shine. It's such a shame that Perkins didn't sort of follow the same advice. By the way, Perkins came from Leighton Orient. He'd only been with us for a couple of years anyway. He had a contract signed, a 2-year contract signed till 2022, hence him leaving. So Perkins wasn't, a West Ham boy, so to speak, and there's a lot of talk that he's a Spurs fan, but I think that's speculation because Spurs are apparently looking around, maybe signing him. But welcome to Patrick Kelly. He's a very, very decent prospect, and he's going to be, he was welcomed to the club by Mark Noble at Rush Green the other day. So good luck to him. Another player that's just left us or about to leave or end of his contract is Amadou Diallo. Apparently, there was talk about him signing for Chelsea. I haven't heard any more about this yet, but Diallo is another player whose academy contract ended end of last week, and he will be another player sort of leaving the academy. Look, he didn't make that many appearances, not even for the under 23s, etc. But we do wish him well, and if he does sign for Chelsea, and good luck to him. Next up, Nathan Trott. Now, it was interesting, Nathan Trott. I'd followed him, and as I do with many of the players who go out on loan, I followed him last season. And I was worried about him. He played for French club Nancy or Nantes or however you call them in the second division in League Two of the French leagues, and he did okay, but the club itself got relegated down to the third tier of the French leagues, and I thought it was it. It was his last year of his contract, and I thought, well, this is it. Nathan Trott, we're going to probably see another player that's going to leave West Ham United, but not so. Nathan Trott has signed a 2-year contract extension, and plus another 2 years on top of that, with an option of another 2 years on top of that. He was brought to West Ham's attention by ex-West Ham legend Clyde Best, both from Bermuda. uh, Nathan Trott used to play outfield, and he only turned to goalkeeping at the age of 15. But then within a year, he was identified by Clyde Best, recommended to West Ham United, and West Ham signed him up. And I'm really, really pleased for him because now it looks to me to give Nathan Trott a 2-year contract extension plus another option of 2 years seems to suggest that Trott at the age of 23 could be one of the future players for West Ham United. Look, we currently got our 3 goalies sorted out. We've, Areola has signed. We've got Fabianski on a 1-year extension. And of course, we've got Darren Randolph. Look, Fabianski, at his age, he'll probably see out the final year of West Ham and then move on. Randolph himself may move on as well. So we may, at the end of next season, have just one goalkeeper, Areola. So having someone like Nathan Trott in the background isn't a bad thing whatsoever. Next up, going on to the women's team just for a moment. Adriana Leone has left West Ham United with her contract having ended. She originally signed for West Ham in 2019 from Seattle Reign. But having spent a couple of years at West Ham, she has now parted the club and looking for a new challenge as well. What about players supposedly coming into the club? Well, the first one, of course, is Youri Tielemans of Leicester. I smiled a little bit of a smirk. I know because Tielemans is a fantastic player, 25 years of age. He's one of those players where it will be a star signing if we even remotely get close to getting him at West Ham United. Look, he's a very, very decent player. He's valued at around 45 to 50 million pounds. He started off his career at Anderlecht, where he started as a defensive midfielder, moved into an attacking midfield role. He's now developed into a typical, decent box-to-box midfielder. He can defend, he can score goals, he can create goals, etc. And what's not to like? He moved to Monaco in 2017 for a deal of about 22 million pounds just after he turned 20 years of age, but that didn't work out for him. And then a couple of years later, in 2019, Leicester came calling. They took him on loan with an option to buy. He put in some very decent performances, and he's become a mainstay of that Leicester midfield. Look, do we have any chance? Apparently, Arsenal have pulled out of pulled their interest away from Tielemans. And but look, he's the sort of player that's going to attract big clubs. European clubs, other clubs in the Premier League. Could it be another player that might go to the likes of Spurs, or even he's the sort of player that would even shine in a team like Chelsea, etc., etc. I would love to think that we could be have a shout in for Tielemans, and I think he's the sort of player that will really make a statement. And him alongside Declan Rice would be a superb coup. Now, this came up, and now we've kind of heard a few stories in the past, but this morning this story came up again. Apparently, there's a mystery club looking to sign Scott McTominay, and we all know that David Moyes is an admirer of the player. Look, he wrote when Moyes was an observer, a technical observer for UEFA during the European Championship. He wrote an article about McTominay, and he gave him a glowing report. One of the 7 players to watch in the tournament. He was going to go places, etc., etc. Now, this come up out of the blue. I don't know if Man United are even looking to sell McTominay. I think people are putting 2 and 2 together and thinking, well, hang on a minute. Man United are buying players, buying a load of midfielders, etc., and looking, and under Ten Hag looking to sort of re-energize the whole team. McTominay, I would keep him. But would he be a solid addition to West Ham? Undoubtedly so. Then we got the drama of Danjuma. Whatever you want to believe about him, who knows? There's so many conflicting stories about this player over the past week alone. You don't know what to believe and what not to believe. 1 minute we're about to sign him. Next minute we're not going to sign him. We don't have an interest. Next minute we hear that the owners want to sign him and quite ready to pay £35 million for him, but Moyes is turning him down because of the player's temperament and the player's attitude, etc. Who knows what to believe? It really is a mind boggle when you try to make out when you're trying to sort of make any reasoning out of all the stories that are going out there. Look, I just don't know at the moment. Would I like Danjuma? I think he's an exciting player. Would I like him to come to West Ham United? Yeah, I think he's shown in a tough league. The Spanish league is not an easy league. I think in a tough league, I think he's shown that he's very, very capable. He's also played in Champions League football as well, and why not? But who knows what's going on? One story is still saying that we're about to sign him. Another story is that Moyes is totally undecided, and I guess we'll find out over the coming days what that outcome might be. Another one, well, how long is this saga going to go on for? And I think a lot of West Ham fans are now hoping that he signs for someone so it would be the end of it, so that we don't have to keep having these stories over and over and over again. Apparently, Everton are now interested in the player. As I said a moment ago, Richarlison's been sold, and Everton are a little bit flush with money, and they're probably seeing Lingard as being an option to buy. Apparently, Lingard does want to stay up north. He wants to stay closer to home. So look, I'd be honest with you. I just want this sorted and out of the way so that David Moyes doesn't hold on to the last minute, hoping that he might still be able to attract Lingard. Hopefully, we can see the end of Lingard, whether he goes to Everton or whether he wants to sign for us, and then we can move on to other targets as well. And the same goes for Broja. How long do we wait for Broja? I've said this a couple of times in previous shows. Apparently, Tuchel wants to see Broja how he plays in the Chelsea team, on tour with Chelsea, etc. Do we wait? Do we wait? I mean, how long do we wait? I know there's still quite a bit of time to go in the transfer market, but do we sort of hang on and hold? Do we have other options to Broja if Tuchel decides not to sell? Plus, Chelsea are putting a high value on the player, suggesting that he could be worth anything up to 50, 60 million pounds. It's just to put teams off, other clubs off to buy him. I want, for the Lingard situation, the Broja situation, I want us to either say, give a deadline and say, right, by this day, we want to know. If both of you aren't interested, we'll move on to other targets. And I'd like that to be sooner rather than later, so we can focus on other targets. A new name that's just propped up over the weekend is Alex Scott of Bristol City. 18 years of age. He's only been with Bristol City a couple of seasons. He joined their academy in 2020 from Guernsey, and he's been dubbed the Guernsey Grealish. Is that a good thing? Does he dive? I don't know. Look, Bristol City don't want to let him go. He's done exceptionally well as coming into the Bristol City side. 42 appearances, 4 goals and 2 assists. Doesn't seem phenomenal, but there's a lot about him. A good, skillful footballer. A lot of development to be done there. But someone for the future. And the David Moyes mantra of Red Bull sort of approach, he would perfectly fit into that. He's also represented England at the under 18s and under 19s level, and won the UEFA Europe. He was part of the squad who won the UEFA European Under 19s Championship. Look, in order to put people off, Bristol City is saying £10 million for this player if you're remotely interested. He's primarily a right midfielder, can play at right wing back. He can play at right back, but he's more of an attacking player. 10 million for a player who's only been around for a couple of years. I don't know. You make your own minds up. Next up, look, I've talked about Lucas Pellegrini from Juventus, and I was really dismissive of him when I talked about him the other day. I called him the Italian version of Arthur Masuaku, but apparently we're really close to signing him. Again, if you believe all the rumours. Look, 23 years of age, developed through the Roma youth scheme, hardly played many games for Juventus. He's been out on loan, mainly in Italian clubs or only in Italian clubs since he signed for Juve. I just still don't know about this player. I'll be honest with you. All I've got to say is that if West Ham United, if David Moyes is really interested in him, they must be seeing something that me as a pundit, what do I know? So I would welcome him with open arms, and who knows? 23 years of age, he could be a good fit for the Premier League. And moving on, Owen Wijndal of AK. I can't pronounce AK Alkmaar, is another young prospect, a decent young talent, Dutch talent. 22 years of age. Apparently, he will only cost around about 9 million. Oh, Pellegrini will only cost about 9 or 10 million too. He was a player that apparently he was going to transfer to Ajax, but talks have fallen through. And my understanding is it was down to not being able to agree personal terms. Look, he's on a salary of something like about 100 grand a week, which, yeah, I did say, sorry, I get that wrong. 100 grand a year. Yeah, not 100 grand a week. And if that's true, that's what, it's just under 2 grand a week. I mean, how can he live, poor man? But on a serious note, if personal terms are the issue, he's another young prospect that could very well be a successor to Aaron Creswell. He's a he's an attack-minded fullback. He's still got a lot to learn in terms of his positioning and his defensive duties, but he's still a decent defender. He's the captain of AK Alkmaar, and he would certainly be someone worth looking into. He's a Dutch international as well, and I would say that if I'm going to compare Pellegrini to Wijndal, I think I would be looking at Wijndal. He's much more established, if that sort of means anything. And another couple, lastly, a few more players. We've heard over the last few days that we're in for 3 players at Burnley: McNeil, Brownhill, and Cornet. Look, these stories have come about because apparently they're all Will Salthouse link players. They're all managed by Salthouse, and we know that Salthouse has got a good connection to David Sullivan. I don't know about these 3. If anything, McNeil, he sounds a little bit lightweight. He didn't do too well in last season. He didn't score any goals and had 1 assist. I think Brownhill could be a player that certainly would be interested in, only as a decent backup to the central midfield of Soucek and Declan Rice. I think he's a player that would certainly add, not necessarily improve the squad, but certainly add depth to the squad. And the same goes for Maxwell Cornet. Maxwell Cornet, pretty decent in his first and only season so far at Burnley. And he's probably going to be looking to prolong his Premier League career rather than playing in the Championship. So if of the 3, if I was to look for anyone, I'd certainly have an interest in Cornet. He could be a decent attack-minded left-sided player, and also Brownhill, who can offer strength in depth. That's it. Thank you for watching. Much appreciated. I'll be back on Monday night for the West Ham Weekly. Do tune into that. Like I said, if you're new to the channel, do subscribe to the channel, West Ham Voice on YouTube. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you very soon.